Okay, so learning English all on your own, it's pretty awesome that you're taking that on, but
Yeah.
I totally get it. Sometimes it feels like you're just drowning in a notion of like vocabulary and all the grammar rules and,
Oh, yeah.
Idioms and all that stuff.
Absolutely. That feeling of just being completely overwhelmed, I think, is something that most language learners face, no matter what language you're tackling.
Right.
And that's why I think this is perfect, this deep dive that we're doing into the source material that you shared with us, which was an episode called The Best Roadmap for Self-Study English, a Beginner's Guide. And it's really packed with advice. It's a true roadmap to fluency. It covers listening, speaking, reading, writing.
Yeah, and what's so cool is it's not just like the usual, vague tips.
Right.
There are some really specific exercises and like twists on classic advice that I thought were really interesting. So we're going to unpack those.
Yeah, let's get into it.
It kicks off with listening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the podcast host really hammers home that listening is the foundation, but not just to understand, but to really soak up how English sounds naturally.
Yeah, and they talk about, listening to slow and clear English, especially for beginners.
Right.
And they actually suggest some podcasts specifically made for learners, like BBC Learning English and ESL Pod.
Yeah, those are classics.
It's funny, I never even thought about like how many resources are out there just for people learning English,
Right.
This deep dive is already
It's amazing.
opening my eyes.
It is. And what's great is you can literally start listening to those today. Right now.
Yeah.
But then they get even more specific.
Oh, they do.
They suggest audiobooks paired with the actual text.
Oh.
So you're hearing the pronunciation.
Oh, wow.
But you're also seeing how the words are spelled.
Okay.
So it's like a double whammy for vocabulary building.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this next exercise. It's so simple, but it's brilliant. They suggest listening to a 5-minute clip, picking out 5 new words, and trying to guess their meaning from context.
Great.
It's like a little detective game, but for language.
Yeah. And it forces you to really pay attention, wouldn't you say?
Right. You're
Like if you're just passively listening,
Yeah.
the words kind of wash over you.
Right.
But having to actively pick out and decipher these new words keeps you engaged.
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Then they move on to watching videos with subtitles.
Yes.
It's like training wheels for your ears.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic stepping stone, especially if you're coming from a language with very different sounds and rhythms.
Right.
I used a similar approach when I was learning German, and it helped me immensely.
Yeah.
They recommend shows like Friends, which makes sense. It's fun. The language is very everyday.
Right. Yeah.
But Peppa Pig, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
But the simplicity is perfect.
It's like going back to basics, right? And again, something you can do even if you only have a few minutes.
Exactly.
They then suggest trying to repeat lines from movies, which is a fun way to practice pronunciation.
It's a fantastic idea. I mean, who hasn't tried to imitate their favorite movie characters at some point, right?
Right.
And the podcast points out that you're more likely to stick with it if the content is enjoyable.
Of course. Yeah. Pick something you like. Don't, force yourself to watch documentaries if that's not your thing.
Right. Exactly.
But then they bring up this technique called shadowing,
Yeah.
which I have to admit I'm not familiar with. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Sure. Shadowing is basically mimicking a native speaker as closely as possible. Like you're their shadow.
Okay.
You're copying their intonation, their rhythm, their pronunciation.
Okay.
It can feel a little awkward at first, but it's incredibly effective for developing a more natural sounding accent.
So it's not just about understanding what they're saying, but how they're saying it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
They even mentioned a YouTube channel, Rachel's English,
Oh, yeah.
specifically for pronunciation.
Oh, that's a great one.
So you can literally start practicing this today,
Right now.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting how this section kind of wrapped up.
Okay.
They really emphasize creating a daily habit, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like building a muscle, but for your ears and your brain.
It is. And consistent exposure is key. Just like when you were a kid absorbing your first language.
Right. Yeah. It's about those small, consistent actions over time.
Absolutely.
This is so inspiring. I'm already feeling motivated to revamp my own English practice.
I love it.
Speaking of practice, the podcast then jumps into the speaking section,
Yeah.
which I think for a lot of learners can feel like the scariest part.
Definitely can be, but the podcast offers some really practical tips for overcoming that fear and building fluency. And one that I found particularly interesting is talking to yourself in English.
Wait, they suggest actually like talking to yourself.
And-
I mean, I talk to myself all the time,
Of course.
but usually in my own language.
Yeah, well, it might sound a little silly at first, but think about it this way. It's like a safe space to practice speaking without judgment.
Yeah.
You're not worried about making mistakes in front of anyone else.
Right.
And they even give this simple example. Instead of thinking, I want coffee,
Yeah.
say it out loud, I'm going to make a cup of coffee. It seems small,
Yeah.
but it gets you used to vocalizing your thoughts in English.
It's like you're taking those thoughts that are trapped in your head
Yes.
and giving them a voice, literally.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
They then suggest describing your surroundings in English, which, again, you can do anywhere, anytime. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's brilliant for expanding your vocabulary.
Okay.
Let's say you're walking through a park.
Yeah.
Instead of just thinking, oh, there's a tree,
Right.
you might describe it as a tall, leafy oak tree with branches reaching towards the sky.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Right. It challenges you to use more descriptive language
Wow.
and think about those nuances of English.
That's a good point. And while practicing solo is great,
Yeah.
they also emphasize the value of having a speaking partner.
Absolutely. Having someone to practice with can make the whole process less intimidating.
Right.
And they mention some really useful tools for finding language partners.
Yeah, they recommend apps like Hello Talk and Tandem,
Yeah, I've heard of those.
which connect you with native speakers.
I'm all over the world.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they also suggest looking for local language exchange groups,
Okay.
which is a nice option for those who prefer face-to-face interaction.
Right.
So it's great that they provide options for different learning styles
Yes.
and preferences.
Okay, this next challenge I thought was really intriguing.
Okay.
They propose speaking for 1 minute straight on a given topic,
Oh, wow.
like preparing for, those elevator pitch moments
Yeah.
where you need to be,
Concise, confident.
yeah,
I
exactly.
love that analogy.
It really is about training yourself to
Express your thoughts clearly
yeah.
and concisely, which is a valuable skill beyond language learning.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It really is.
And, good practice for real life situations where you might not have a lot of time to explain yourself.
Right.
But they also stress the importance of recording yourself speaking,
Yes.
which, I don't know, can be a little daunting, even though I know it's helpful.
I understand the hesitation. It can be a little cringeworthy to listen back to your own voice,
Yes.
especially when you're still learning.
Right.
But remember, the goal isn't to sound perfect. It's about developing self-awareness.
Right. It's about noticing those little things that you might not realize you're doing, like a certain pronunciation mistake or something
Exactly.
that you keep making.
Yeah,
And they emphasize that it's all about progress, not perfection.
absolutely. And sometimes it's good to have a little reminder that even native speakers make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Oh, totally. All the time.
So don't be afraid to stumble and experiment.
Okay, now I'm really feeling motivated to put these speaking tips into practice.
too.
But before we get too carried away,
Okay.
the podcast then who's on to reading, right?
Yes, reading is like a superpower for building vocabulary and deepening your understanding of English grammar.
It's like you're absorbing the building blocks of the language, wouldn't you say?
I love that analogy. It's so true. And they emphasize the importance of starting with simple texts,
Okay.
like children's books or graded readers.
Oh,
And they even mention the BBC Learning English website again,
oh,
which seems to be a recurring theme
it is.
and a great resource.
I'm making a note of that now for those who might not be familiar.
Yeah.
Can you explain what graded readers are exactly?
Sure. Graded readers are books specifically written for language learners.
Okay.
They come in different levels, so you can start with simpler texts and gradually work your way up
Oh, okay.
to more complex ones as your reading skills improve.
So it's like a bridge between children's books and, say, classic literature.
Exactly.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
And what I love about this section is the focus on active reading. They suggest an exercise where you read a short story and underline any new words you encounter.
I like that.
It's simple, but it forces you to engage with the text differently.
Yeah, it's not just about passively taking in the words,
Right.
but actively seeking out new vocabulary and trying to understand its meaning within the context of the story.
Right.
And speaking of context,
Yeah.
they really hammer home the importance of using context clues to decipher meaning,
Oh my gosh, yes.
rather than relying solely on a dictionary.
I can't tell you how many times I've gotten lost in a dictionary black hole, looking up one word after another
We've all been there.
and completely losing track of what I was originally reading.
Yeah, it happens. And they give a great example to illustrate this.
Okay.
The power of context clues.
Huh?
They use a simple sentence. The puppy wagged its tail happily.
Okay.
You don't need a dictionary to figure out that wagged probably means moved in this context.
It's like a light bulb moment when you realize you can figure out the meaning of a word without having to constantly interrupt your flow.
Exactly. And that's such a valuable skill, especially as you start tackling more complex texts.
Right.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They then suggest another interesting exercise, reading a paragraph every day and summarizing it in one sentence,
Oh, that's good.
which, sounds like a great way to improve reading comprehension
Definitely.
and the ability to extract key information.
Yeah, it's almost like you're training your brain to be more efficient and focused,
Right.
which is so crucial in today's world,
Yes.
where we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
But tell me about it.
Right.
Okay, I have to admit I'm a little skeptical about reading aloud.
Okay.
It feels a little awkward
Uh-huh.
and honestly kind of childish.
I understand the hesitation. It's not something we typically do as adults, but there are real benefits to it. Reading aloud forces you to slow down, pronounce each word carefully, and really internalize the sounds of the language.
Okay.
It strengthens the connection between your reading and speaking skills.
So it's like you're training your mouth to say the words correctly,
Exactly.
even if you're not speaking to another person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they even suggest recording yourself reading a news article,
Okay.
which seems a little less intimidating than, say, reading Shakespeare aloud.
That's a good point. News articles are something that we encounter regularly.
Right.
And the language is generally more straightforward. But
Yeah.
like with all these other tips,
Uh-huh.
the key is consistency.
Right. Absolutely. Even just 15 minutes of reading each day can make a significant difference over time.
Yeah.
It's about making it a habit, like brushing your teeth
Okay.
or going for a walk.
So it's about integrating these little pockets of learning into your daily routine,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is so much less daunting than trying to block out like hours for studying.
It is. It is.
Exactly. And speaking of integrating learning into your everyday life, the podcast then moves on to writing,
Oh, the big one.
which can feel like the most intimidating skill to master.
It can be.
Yeah, writing always feels like this big, scary monster.
But they reassure us that the goal isn't to become the next Shakespeare.
Okay, good.
It's about getting comfortable expressing your thoughts and ideas in written English,
Right.
focusing on clarity and accuracy
Okay.
rather than literary brilliance.
Okay, that makes me feel so much better.
Good.
They start with a simple suggestion, which is keeping a journal.
Yes.
Just jotting down a few sentences about your day.
Exactly. Something like, today I went to the park. The weather was sunny and warm. It's about getting comfortable with the basics of sentence structure and using simple vocabulary.
Yeah, my journal entries are definitely a bit more dramatic than that.
Well, this isn't about winning any literary awards.
Right.
It's about practicing the fundamentals of writing in English.
Yeah. And they also suggest describing a place you've been, like a park, in detail.
Yes.
Again, using those descriptive words.
Right.
And practicing sentence construction.
It's a great way to challenge yourself to use a wider range of vocabulary and grammatical structures.
Okay, this next tip is so manageable, it almost feels too easy.
Okay.
They recommend writing just 5 sentences each night before bed.
But that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's about making these habits so ingrained that they become second nature.
Okay.
And there's some interesting research that suggests practicing a new skill before bed
Oh, really?
can actually help your brain consolidate the information while you sleep.
No way. So you're telling me I can improve my English while I sleep?
That's the idea.
That's amazing. What else did they suggest?
Well, here's a tip that's particularly relevant for our digitally connected world, texting in English.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right.
It's such a natural way to incorporate practice into your everyday life.
Absolutely.
And it's low stakes. You don't have to worry about making mistakes in front of a large audience.
Exactly. You can text friends, family, or even just practice with yourself in a notes app.
Right.
Just get those fingers typing.
I actually tried texting in Spanish with a friend who was learning.
Oh, fun.
And it was hilarious. We had to get really creative with emojis
I bet.
to get our point across.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you were having fun while learning, which is always the goal.
For sure. And for those who are active online, the podcast suggests joining English-speaking groups on platforms like Reddit or Facebook,
Oh, yeah. Great idea.
which is a great way to engage in conversations and practice reading and writing in a more informal setting.
It's like you're surrounding yourself with the language.
Right.
Even if you're not physically in an English-speaking environment.
Okay, this next writing challenge I thought was really intriguing.
Okay.
Writing a 100-word story.
Ooh.
I'm not sure I could tell a compelling story in just 100 words.
That's the challenge, right? It forces you to be concise and deliberate with your words.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable skill for any type of writing.
Right.
Not just creative writing.
And they even give a fun example. Write about your dream vacation.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, I'd have so much fun with that. My dream vacation involves a private island, a talking parrot, and an endless supply of chocolate chip cookies.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And you see, it's easy to get carried away and write pages and pages.
Right.
But the 100-word limit forces you to prioritize and streamline your ideas.
It's about making every word count, which again is a valuable skill for any writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the key takeaway here, once again, is regularity over perfection. Just like with speaking and reading.
Yeah.
It's about making writing a consistent habit.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Exactly. It's about building a routine that works for you.
Right.
And sticking with it.
Okay.
And speaking of routine, they actually provide a sample daily plan.
Oh, this is what I was waiting for.
For incorporating all of these skills into your life.
I love it when they give you like a concrete plan to follow.
I know, right?
So let's break it down.
Okay, so it starts with listening to an English podcast for just 10 minutes in the morning.
Okay, totally doable.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah.
And then they suggest reading a short article for another 10 minutes in the afternoon.
Okay, like a little mini break.
It is.
For your brain, but with the added bonus of learning English.
Exactly. And it builds on what we've already discussed.
Yeah.
You can use one of the podcasts we mentioned earlier.
Right.
Or you can explore other resources based on your interests.
Okay.
And then in the evening, they suggest speaking out loud about your day for 5 minutes.
Okay, again, this links back to that idea of...
Practicing even when you're alone.
Yeah.
Making it a part of your,
Right.
your natural thought process.
Right.
Yeah.
And then finally, before bed, they suggest spending 5 minutes writing a short journal entry.
Yeah, just a little recap of your day, but in English.
Exactly. And the best part is all of these activities are like bite-sized.
They are.
And manageable.
Yeah.
Even for the busiest of schedules.
Absolutely.
This roadmap is seriously genius.
It is.
And they even provide a final golden nugget of advice.
Okay.
Make English a part of your life.
It's such a powerful reminder that learning English isn't just about completing exercises or studying grammar rules.
Right.
It's about integrating the language into your everyday life.
Yeah.
Finding opportunities to think,
Yeah.
speak, and engage with English in authentic and meaningful ways.
I love that. It's about looking for those little moments throughout your day where you could just sprinkle in a bit of English practice.
Exactly, like thinking in English while you're grocery shopping.
Oh.
Listening to English music while you're cooking.
Right.
Or even watching a movie in English with subtitles.
Okay.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it really is about creating your own personalized English immersion experience, isn't it?
That's exactly it. And it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming thing. It's about those small, consistent steps taken over time.
Going through this roadmap with you has been a real eye-opener. I feel like we've uncovered so many great tips and strategies.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited to put them into practice myself.
Me too. It's so refreshing to see such a practical and, dare I say, enjoyable approach to language learning.
Yeah, and it all boils down to those 4 core skills, right? Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
Absolutely.
We've covered each one in depth.
We have.
And I think we've really highlighted the importance of integrating them into your daily life.
Yes. And for me, the biggest takeaway from this deep dive is that consistency and enjoyment go hand in hand.
Right.
It's not about forcing yourself to study for hours on end.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to make English a natural and enjoyable part of your daily routine.
I love that. It's about finding those little pockets of time throughout your day where you can connect with the language. Whether it's, listening to a podcast during your commute,
Yeah.
reading an article while you're waiting in line, or even just chatting with a language partner online.
Exactly. It's about those small, consistent actions that add up over time.
Right.
And when you enjoy the process,
Yeah.
you're so much more likely to stick with it and see real progress.
So what do you say? Are you up for a challenge?
Challenge accepted. Bring it on.
Okay, listeners, here's the challenge. Try following this roadmap for just 1 week.
Okay.
Commit to incorporating those daily habits we've been discussing. The listening, the speaking, the reading, the writing, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to experiment with different resources and find what works best for you.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to learn a language.
Exactly.
As long as you're enjoying the process.
This is just the beginning of your English learning journey. There's a whole world of language waiting to be explored. And with the right mindset and a little bit of effort, you can achieve fluency and unlock so many incredible opportunities.
I couldn't agree more. It's amazing how much you can achieve when you set your mind to it.
Right.
And embrace the process with enthusiasm and dedication.
And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Keep practicing, keep exploring,
Keep going.
and never stop believing in your ability to master this beautiful language.
Now, before we wrap things up completely,
Okay.
there's one final thought I want to leave you with.
Okay.
The podcast we explored today focuses specifically on the journey to fluency,
Uh-huh.
but I think it's important to remember that language learning is an ongoing process.
That's a great point. It's not like you reach fluency and then you suddenly stop learning, right?
Exactly. Language is constantly evolving, and there's always something new to discover.
Right.
Whether it's a nuanced grammatical structure, a regional dialect, or even just a new slang word that's trending online.
Right. So how do we keep that momentum going even after we've achieved, like, our initial fluency goals?
I think it's all about cultivating a mindset of lifelong learning.
Okay.
That genuine curiosity about the language and a willingness to embrace those inevitable challenges that come with exploring any new territory.
I love that. It's about seeing language learning not as a destination, but as an ongoing adventure.
Precisely. And that adventure can take you to some incredible places,
Yeah?
both literally and figuratively.
I like that.
It can open doors to new cultures, new friendships, new perspectives, and a deeper understanding of the world around us.
What are some practical ways to kind of keep that adventure going?
Okay.
To keep that spark of curiosity alive?
Well, for one, don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone and try new things.
Okay.
If you've been focusing mainly on reading and listening,
Uh-huh.
challenge yourself to start speaking more.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with everyday conversations, try writing a short story or even a poem in English.
Those are great ideas. And I think it's also important to stay connected with the English-speaking community,
Yes.
whether that's through, online forums or social media groups or even just chatting with English-speaking friends or colleagues.
Absolutely. It's about surrounding yourself with the language and finding opportunities to use it in authentic and meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And don't forget about the power of storytelling.
Ooh, I love a good story. What do you have in mind?
Think about all the incredible stories that are out there waiting to be discovered, from classic literature to contemporary novels,
All right.
from blockbuster movies to independent films, from TED Talks to podcasts like this one.
Okay, you're speaking my language now. I'm a total podcast junkie.
Me too. And podcasts are such a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the language, learn about different topics, and hear a variety of accents and speaking styles.
It's like having a conversation with interesting people from all over the world.
It is.
And the best part is, there's a podcast for literally every interest imaginable. I know, right? From true crime to history, from science to pop culture, from personal development to, language learning.
Exactly. So if you're looking for a way to keep your English skills sharp, expand your vocabulary, and stay engaged with the language, I highly recommend adding a few English language podcasts to your listening rotation.
And don't be afraid to branch out and explore different genres and formats. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Yeah.
And who knows? You might even find your new favorite podcast.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with one final challenge.
Okay, I like it.
What English language podcast are you going to explore next?
Ooh, that's a good one. And to make things even more interesting, how about we challenge our listeners to share their podcast recommendations with us on social media? We'd love to hear what you're listening to and what's inspiring you on your English learning journey.
That's a fantastic idea. We'll be sure to share some of our favorites as well.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring deep dive. I feel like we've uncovered a treasure trove of valuable information and practical tips for anyone looking to enhance their English skills.
I couldn't agree more. And remember, the most important thing is to enjoy the process and never stop exploring the wonders of this incredible language.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning. So if you're looking for a way to keep your English skills sharp, expand your vocabulary, and stay engaged with the language, I highly recommend adding a few English language podcasts to your listening rotation.
And don't be afraid to branch out and explore different genres and formats.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at what you discover.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might even find your new favorite podcast.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want
yeah.
to leave you with one final challenge.
Okay, I like it.
What English language podcast are you going to explore next?
Ooh, that's a good one. And to make things even more interesting, how about we challenge our listeners to share their podcast recommendations with us on social media? We'd love to hear what you're listening to and what's inspiring you on your English learning journey.
That's a fantastic idea. We'll be sure to share some of our favorites as well.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring deep dive.
Mhm.
I feel like we've uncovered a treasure trove of valuable information and practical tips for anyone looking to enhance their English skills.
I couldn't agree more. And remember, the most important thing is to enjoy the process and never stop exploring the wonders of this incredible language.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning.
And you never know, maybe one day our listener will be inspired to start their own podcast in English.
No, that's a thought. Sharing your unique perspective and voice with the world, all in your second language, that's really incredible.
Yeah,
It really speaks to how transformative language learning can be.
absolutely. It's a journey of self-discovery, pushing boundaries, and ultimately connecting with others in a deeper way.
I think that that beautifully sums up what we've explored in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We started with that feeling of overwhelm. Then we uncovered this amazing roadmap packed with practical tips.
Right.
And now we're looking ahead to the endless possibilities that await.
It all started with a simple podcast episode you shared,
Yeah.
but look where we've ended up.
Right.
It's a reminder that every journey starts with a single step.
So to our listener, I encourage you, take that first step. Embrace the process, the ups and downs, and never stop exploring the beauty and power of the English language.
And on that note, until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning. All right, so we're back and ready for another deep dive. You guys ready? This time, we're tackling vocabulary.
Ooh, vocabulary, love it.
Yeah, so we're going to unlock 25 words that can seriously boost your English fluency and honestly make you sound way smarter.
That's right.
We're not just throwing out random words, though.
No.
Our source material actually broke these words down into 5 categories so we can really, get a grip on them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Makes it much easier.
Way easier.
Yeah.
So before we, jump into the deep end, want to give us a little overview of what we're diving into?
Sure. It's not just about using big words to, impress people.
Yeah.
It's about using the right words to help you think clearly and express yourself better.
Yeah.
These words add nuance.
Totally. Sometimes I feel like I'm using the same old phrases when I'm trying to, get my point across or argue about something. It gets kind of boring.
Right.
So having these new words could be like a total game changer.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's jump into the first category.
Let's do it.
Opinions and arguments. It's like everyone's got opinions, but if you can't really explain them well or back them up, they kind of fall flat.
That's so true. That's where these words come in handy.
Okay, so hit me with the first one.
Substantiate.
Substantiate. Ooh, that sounds intimidating.
I know, right?
But useful.
Super useful. It basically means to provide evidence or proof for something.
Oh, okay. So instead of just saying, I think this is the best movie ever,
Right.
You could say, I can substantiate my claim.
Exactly. It elevates your argument, encourages critical thinking, makes you think twice.
You actually just helped me win an argument in my head.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I was thinking about that article you sent me about topic related to the listener.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how they were saying opposing viewpoint?
Mm-hmm.
I could totally challenge them to substantiate those claims.
Boom. Mic drop.
Right.
See? That's how you use it.
Okay, next word, please. I need more ammo for these debates.
Okay. How about ambivalent?
Ambivalent. Oh, I love this one. This is so me.
Why? Why is it so you?
Because I am the queen of mixed feelings. Especially when it comes to, a relatable dilemma the listener has shared before. Some days I'm all for it, others I'm totally against it.
I think most of us can relate to that, though. It's that whole it depends feeling.
Exactly. You can't really make up your mind.
Ambivalent perfectly captures that. It acknowledges those gray areas in life.
Yeah.
Not everything is black and white.
Right, totally. And it sounds way smarter than just saying, I don't know.
So much smarter.
Okay, give me another one.
Okay. Plausible?
Plausible. Okay, now I always mix that one up with possible.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a subtle difference.
Help me out.
Possible just means something could happen. But plausible implies that it's actually reasonable to think it will happen, based on the evidence.
Okay, so it's possible I might win the lottery tonight.
But it's not very plausible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless I buy a ticket, then maybe it's a little more plausible.
Yeah, maybe slightly.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Good.
What's next?
How about refute?
Refute. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of intense, like something you'd hear in a courtroom drama or something.
It is a powerful word. It means to prove something wrong, to disprove it, using facts, logic, the whole 9 yards.
Ooh, I like it. So it's not just about disagreeing.
No, it's about taking it a step further.
Yeah, like actually dismantling the other argument.
Exactly, with solid reasoning. You think about those online debates, where people are going back and forth, they're trying to refute each other's points.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I see it all the time.
All the time, right. And it's important to use this word strategically. It's not about shutting down conversation, It's about pushing for deeper understanding.
Oh, I like that. So refute, but don't be rude.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, so we've got some serious firepower for our opinions and arguments now.
Yeah, you're ready to take on any debate.
I know, right? I feel so much more articulate already.
That's the goal.
Okay, ready for part 2. Let's move on to describing people and emotions.
All right, let's dive in.
Okay.
We're going to explore how these words can help you understand yourself and others on a much deeper level.
All right, so part 2, huh? Advanced words for describing people and emotions.
That's right.
Okay, I'm intrigued, I gotta say. Lay it on me. What's the first word that comes to mind?
Well, let's start with resilient. Everybody knows someone who's like this, someone who just bounces back from anything.
Oh, totally. Like life throws them curveballs and they just hit a home run every time.
Exactly. They bend, but they don't break.
Mm-hmm.
And resilience, it's like a muscle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah.
Think about your own life for a second. What challenges have you faced that really forced you to build up your resilience?
Wow, okay. That's a good question. Let me think. There was that time when a personal anecdote that connects to the listener's experience with resilience.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely had to dig deep and find that inner strength.
We all go through those moments, but it's how we bounce back, that really defines us.
Totally. And I think recognizing that in ourselves and in others can be super inspiring.
Absolutely.
Okay, so resilience, that's a good one. What about something a little less positive?
Okay. How about vindictive?
Vindictive. Ooh, yeah, not a quality you want to see in people too often.
Definitely not. It describes someone who's driven by revenge.
Yeah.
They want to see others suffer for things they think they've done wrong. It can get pretty messy.
Yeah, holding on to all that anger and resentment, that can't be good for anyone.
Nope, not at all.
Okay, let's move on to something a bit more uplifting.
Okay, yeah.
What about charismatic? We all know those people who just light up a room.
Oh, yeah, they've got that certain something.
Right, it's not always about looks or what they say. It's more like their energy.
It's true.
How they make you feel.
Totally. In charisma, it can be a bit of a mystery,
It's like a magnetic pole, right?
Exactly. They make you feel good just by being around them.
I know. And I always wonder, is that something you're born with or can you learn it?
Well, some people are naturally charismatic, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think you can definitely cultivate it,
Interesting.
Yeah. It's about being present, engaged, and genuinely interested in others.
So maybe we can all learn to be a little more charismatic.
I think so.
All right, that's a good goal. Okay, what else we got?
How about candid?
Candid. Oh, I like that one. It's like being honest and straightforward, right?
Yeah, even when it's tough. Candor is all about building trust. It's about saying what you really think and feel, but in a respectful way.
So it's like not sugarcoating things.
Exactly.
Being authentic.
Yeah, being real. It can be hard sometimes, but it's so important for building strong relationships.
Absolutely. We could all use a little more candor in our lives.
I agree.
Okay, so we've covered resilience, vindictive, charismatic, candid. It's quite a range of emotions and personality traits.
It is, isn't it? But it's just a taste of what's out there.
I know. I'm ready for more. What's next?
Well, how about we move on to some words for describing situations and events?
Ooh, okay. Bring it on. All right, part 3. What have we got?
Advanced words for describing situations and events.
Ooh, this sounds interesting. Okay, what's the first word that jumps out at you?
Precarious.
Precarious. It makes me think of those moments where you're one wrong move away from complete disaster.
Yeah, you got it. It conveys that sense of instability, like you're teetering on the edge.
Oh, totally. Remember the time I told you about when I was relatable but slightly risky situation the listener has shared before?
Okay.
That was precarious.
Totally precarious. Heart racing, right?
Oh, big time. But precarious can also be used for more serious stuff too, right?
Of course. We hear it a lot when people talk about, like, the global economy or those political tensions between countries.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely adds a sense of urgency. Like things could go south really fast.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Imperative.
An imperative. Okay, so that means like absolutely necessary, right?
Yep. It's not just a good idea. It's essential.
Oh, okay. So like breathing is imperative.
Exactly. Or stopping at a red light. Pretty imperative if you want to avoid an accident.
True, true. Makes it sound way more serious than just saying important.
It definitely raises the stakes.
Okay, love it. Give me another one.
Okay, how about arduous?
Arduous. Ooh, that sounds tough.
It is. It describes something that's really difficult, demanding, requires a lot of effort,
So like climbing Mount Everest, that's got to be arduous.
super arduous, or running a marathon, training for that.
Yeah. It's like, you know, it's going to be a challenge, but there's that sense of accomplishment when you finally get there.
Totally. You've pushed yourself to the limit.
Okay. I like that. What's next on our list?
Ephemeral.
Ephemeral. Ooh, now that's a beautiful word. It's always been one of my favorites.
It's pretty poetic. It captures that fleeting nature of things,
Those moments that are gone too soon.
Exactly. A sunset, a blooming flower. It's like a reminder to appreciate the beauty while it lasts.
Yeah. That's a good takeaway. Live in the moment, right?
Live in the moment.
Okay. Last word for this category.
Pertinent.
Pertinent. Okay, that just means relevant, right?
Yep. To the point. No distractions.
So, like, if we're talking about vocabulary, discussing the latest celebrity gossip wouldn't be very pertinent.
Not really, no. Unless, of course, the celebrity was known for their incredible vocabulary.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about staying focused, making sure the information you're sharing actually matters to the conversation.
Exactly. No rambling.
All right, we've covered some serious ground here. From feeling precarious to embracing the ephemeral. I feel like we've really leveled up our descriptive powers.
I think so too. But we're not done yet. We've still got one more category to explore.
Oh yeah, that's right. Advanced words for science and technology. I'm ready to expand my mind even further.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's dive right in. What's the first word that comes to mind when you think about science and technology?
Well, it has to be paradigm.
Paradigm, yeah. It makes me think of those moments when, like, your whole understanding of something just completely shifts.
Exactly. Those aha moments, right? A paradigm is like a fundamental change in thinking, a new way of seeing the world.
It's like a major breakthrough, like the invention of the internet. That was a paradigm shift, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It revolutionized the way we communicate, share information, everything. And, paradigm shifts don't just happen in science and technology. We experience them in our personal lives, too,
Oh, yeah. Like, for the longest time, I thought a personal belief or assumption the listener might relate to. But then an experience that challenged that belief.
Wow.
It was like my whole perspective shifted.
Those are the moments that really shape us.
Yeah.
Force us to reevaluate things.
Absolutely. Okay, so paradigm, that's a powerful word.
It is. And it reminds us that change is constant.
Okay, next word, please. Keep those brain cells firing.
Okay, how about anomaly?
Anomaly. Now that one makes me think of like those weird occurrences that you can't really explain.
That's a good way to put it. And it's something that deviates from the norm.
Yeah.
Like in a science experiment, if you get a result that totally doesn't fit with your expectations, that's an anomaly.
Oh, okay. So like those glitches in the matrix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or those moments when you're like, wait, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes those anomalies can lead to pretty amazing discoveries, right?
Totally. They force us to think outside the box, challenge our assumptions.
Makes sense. Okay, what else have we got?
Feasible?
Feasible, okay. Now, I know it means something that's possible, but it feels like there's more to it than that.
Right. It's not just possible. It's also practical. Achievable.
So, like, building a time machine might be theoretically possible.
Maybe someday.
But right now, not really feasible with our current technology.
Exactly. Feasibility takes into account, resources, limitations. It's about being realistic.
Okay, I get it. It's not just about what could be done, but what can realistically be done. All right, last word for this category and for our whole deep dive. I'm excited to see what it is.
Okay, let's wrap things up with empirical.
Empirical. Okay, that sounds very sciencey.
It is. It basically means based on observation or experience. Hard evidence.
So not just theories or ideas, but stuff you can actually see and measure.
Exactly. Empirical evidence is crucial in science. It's about proving things, with real-world data.
Okay. Makes sense. Wow, we covered a lot of ground today. From opinions and arguments to science and technology, my brain is officially full.
Mine too. But in a good way, right?
Oh yeah, definitely a good brain full. And honestly, I feel like I could go out and have a much more interesting conversation right now.
That's the goal.
Like my vocabulary's gone from 0 to 100 real quick.
I love it. Using these words, it's not just about sounding smart. It's about understanding the world better, expressing yourself more clearly.
Totally. And who knows, maybe we'll even inspire some paradigm shifts along the way.
I love that. Keep those brain cells firing.
That's right. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop expanding your vocabulary. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another adventure in language and learning.